You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right?
In the late hours of July 13, 2022, a famous nail stylist would buy a $400 air ticket to kill her husband's side chick. What should have been an ordinary evening in an apartment at Tamarack Village quickly spiraled into chaos, setting the stage for a brutal crime that would shake the community to its core. Around 5 a.m., police responded to a frantic 911 call reporting an unconscious body. When they arrived, they were greeted by a chilling silence, but their discovery was far more horrifying. Inside the apartment, they found the lifeless body of a woman, severely beaten and covered in blood, the signs of a violent struggle clearly evident. What made the scene even more unsettling? The killer, a famous nail stylist, was nowhere to be found. Just hours earlier, she had purchased a $400 plane ticket, not for a getaway, but to confront the woman who had stolen her husband's heart. Fueled by months of mounting frustration and betrayal, she had come to one devastating conclusion: she would stop at nothing to reclaim her man. The killer's path to vengeance had been carefully calculated. What drove her to this? And more chillingly, what happens when a woman decides she's willing to kill for love? This is the tragic life and death of Kayla Hodgson. Kayla Hodgson was born on April 17, 1999 in Tamarack, Florida. From a young age, Kayla displayed a zest for life, always trying to make the best out of any situation. She had a close-knit family, and her circle of friends described her as kind-hearted, ambitious, and a natural at making people feel good about themselves. Those who knew Kayla never failed to mention how her infectious smile could light up even the darkest room. But her journey into adulthood was filled with ambition and her passion for adventure. After finishing high school, Kayla became a flight attendant and bartender, working to fund her dreams and live a lifestyle that was all about experiences. She loved to travel, meet new people, and try new things, which made her an integral part of her social circles. Whether she was serving drinks or helping people on a plane, Kayla was the person everyone looked forward to being around. Kayla was also a strong, independent woman. She was not one to back down from a challenge, whether it was at work or in her personal life. Her friends and family all attest to her resilience and ability to handle any situation with grace and confidence. She was always there for her friends, a pillar of support for those who needed her, and her community loved her for her generous heart and bright spirit. At the time of her tragic death, Kayla was in a relationship with Terry, a man she believed was her partner, her lover, and her future. However, unbeknownst to her, Terry had been keeping a dark secret. He had another girlfriend, one who was as committed to him as Kayla believed she was. This other woman, 31-year-old Sakina Thompson. Sakina was a nail technician based in New York, running a small but thriving business. With steady clients and a comfortable income, she was living life on her terms, enjoying the success she had built for herself. Sakina and her boyfriend, Terry, were always active on social media, sharing their lives with the world.
Sakina, turn around and say, yeah, the big one.
I'll give this to the biggest, to the gang, you know the vibe.
Terry, however, had another side to his story. He was also dating Kayla in Florida. While Sakina posted pictures of herself receiving gifts, partying, and enjoying life with Terry, constantly trying to show she was the main girlfriend, there was more brewing beneath the surface. Despite her public displays of happiness, she wasn't content. Once she found out about Kayla, her frustration turned into something darker.
Hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right? You know that I throw hands, right?
She wanted Terry all to herself and was willing to do whatever it took to make Kayla pay for the betrayal. But what she didn't know was she was about to become a key figure in the tragic end of Kayla. On the morning of July 13, 2022, Kayla woke up to a quiet, peaceful day in her apartment. Little did she know, this would be the last day of her life. That evening, Sakina Thompson, who was 2 months pregnant with Terry's child, bought a ticket from New York to Florida. She had made the decision to confront Kayla over their shared boyfriend. Sakina had been monitoring Kayla on social media, and upon discovering their relationship, she became obsessed with confronting Kayla about it. Sakina had seen enough, and according to later reports, had made up her mind to end the situation once and for all. She wasn't just angry, she was furious and wanted to show Kayla that she was not a woman to be messed with. She planned to go to Kayla's apartment and make her stop dating Terry, but this would escalate into something much darker. The incident that would end Kayla's life began when Sakina showed up uninvited at Kayla's apartment around 4 a.m. According to witnesses, Sakina had already been drinking when she knocked on Kayla's door. The scene that followed was one of jealousy and anger. Kayla let Sakina into her apartment, unsure of what was happening. It didn't take long before the situation took a violent turn. Sakina and Kayla began to argue, and the conversation quickly turned into a physical confrontation. At first, it was a verbal altercation. Sakina, in a fit of rage, reportedly yelled at Kayla, accusing her of being the other woman in Terry's life. But things quickly escalated. Kayla allegedly hit Sakina over the head with a hookah, a move that seemed to set off a chain reaction of violence. What followed was brutal. Sakina claimed that in self-defense, she grabbed something sharp from Kayla's apartment and stabbed her repeatedly. She said she was acting out of fear and desperation, but the reality was much darker. Kayla was stabbed dozens of times, her body left lifeless on the floor of her own apartment.
Elisa, thanks. And now to a tragedy in Tamarack after a woman is found dead. 7's Samantha Sosa is there live with more on the investigation and what we know about the victim. Samantha.
Tavares, good afternoon. The Broward County Sheriff's Office's mobile command center is still here on the scene as investigators continue processing evidence here. And now the Sheriff's Office is officially calling this a murder investigation. Detectives continue going in and out of a second-floor unit Thursday afternoon at the Tamarack Village Apartments along Commercial Boulevard. Investigators processing bags of evidence, including some found outside on the sidewalk. This command center here more than 20 hours after a discovery.
Our caller says that there's a gash on the patient's neck. It looks like someone slashed her neck.
This harrowing 911 call went through around 3 in the afternoon Thursday. Broward deputies later finding a young woman dead. Family says she was just 23 years old. Friends identify her as Kayla Hodgson, pictured here, a flight attendant and bartender for special events. Crime scene tape surrounded the area. 7 Skyforce hovered above the investigation where detectives say the victim under suspicious circumstances. A man also seen being transported by ambulance. Family and friends of the woman who died quickly showing up, some embracing while others anxiously waited for answers. Deputies focusing part of their investigation on this white Range Rover parked nearby. Neighbors coming home to see the massive crime scene worried for their own safety.
You don't know if it's someone that lives here, or if it's someone that the person knew that lives outside, but yeah, it's definitely concerning.
Again, this all started yesterday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Who is responsible for this? Well, that is still a mystery, but if you have any information that could help authorities, you are urged to call the Broward Sheriff's Office or you can call Crime Stoppers. For now, we are live in Tamarack. Samantha Sosa, 7 News.
Sakina's actions went beyond self-defense. They were fueled by a toxic combination of jealousy, anger, and insecurity. Sakina's admission that she didn't know what happened after she stabbed Kayla showed just how deeply disturbed her mind was in the heat of the moment. Once she realized what she'd done, she went into a state of panic. She attempted to clean the crime scene using Lysol wipes and paper towels, but no amount of cleaning could erase the gruesome evidence of her actions. But then she would do something more chilling. Sakina changed into Kayla's clothes, possibly to hide the bloodstains on her own. Then she left the apartment, leaving behind a crime scene marked with evidence of a violent struggle. Kayla was found hours later, unresponsive, by someone who had come to check on her. The police were quickly called, and when they arrived at the apartment, they were met with the chilling reality of the situation. At first, authorities were unsure of what exactly had happened. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, and it appeared to be a domestic situation gone wrong. But as the investigation unfolded, the details of the crime began to surface. It was clear that this was no ordinary case of violence. It was a carefully planned act of revenge. Detectives began to examine the evidence, and one of the most telling clues was the presence of Sakina's DNA under Kayla's fingernails, a detail that would ultimately tie Sakina to the crime. Authorities also discovered Sakina's social media posts where she bragged about her relationship with Terry, further supporting the theory that her jealousy had led her to commit murder. The discovery of Kayla Hodgson's body in her apartment sent shockwaves through the local community, but it also set in motion a thorough investigation that would uncover the chilling truth behind her death.
We begin with a one and only exclusive. Only Local 10 is speaking with a family friend of a homicide victim.
23-year-old Kayla Hodgson was found dead in an apartment in Tamarack about a week ago. And Local 10's Hatzel Vela joining us live with what she had to say about this. Hatzel?
So, Christy, this is a family that's still planning a funeral, still grieving, still wondering why anyone would do this.
She was bright, she was beautiful, she was everybody's hype man.
It's been slightly more than a week since Kayla Hodgson was murdered.
Her life was gone way too soon.
Today, Local 10 talks to a friend of the family. Her loved ones remain too heartbroken to speak.
We love her, we miss her, we know we are praying for justice.
Let's take you back to earlier this month, July 13th. That's when family and friends tell us 23-year-old Kayla was found in her Tamarack apartment. Up to this point, the Broward Sheriff's Office has only revealed few details about what happened. Someone, they say, found Kayla unresponsive that afternoon. The bartender was pronounced dead on the scene.
The caller said that there's a gash on the patient's neck. It looks like someone slashed her neck.
Radio calls paint a grim picture of how she was found.
The unknown is driving us crazy. You know, we don't know who did this. We don't know why you would do this.
One of the first things investigators discovered was that Sakina Thompson, a nail technician from New York, had been keeping a close eye on Kayla and Terry's relationship. Sakina had been in a relationship with Terry for some time, but she only found out about Kayla and Terry's involvement when she began to notice the subtle signs of betrayal. As she spiraled into jealousy, she made the decision to confront Kayla face to face, regardless of the consequences. Through social media posts and messages exchanged between the two women, investigators learned that Sakina had been aware of Kayla's existence for a while. Sakina's posts on platforms like Instagram showcased her relationship with Terry, which she proudly displayed in an attempt to stake her claim. But what was most disturbing was her behavior toward Kayla. She had been sending Kayla messages on social media only to have them ignored, further escalating her anger and obsession. Authorities quickly discovered that after the confrontation escalated into violence, Sakina made several attempts to cover her tracks. She cleaned the crime scene, trying to rid the apartment of evidence that would tie her to the crime. However, she couldn't erase one thing: her DNA under Kayla's fingernails, indicating a physical struggle before Kayla's death. Detectives also discovered Lysol wipes and paper towels that Sakina had used in an attempt to clean the scene. But it wasn't just her cleaning efforts that led authorities to her. Sakina's clothing was soaked with Kayla's blood, and when she fled the scene, she had to change into Kayla's clothes to avoid being covered in the evidence. It was a chilling move, one that showed the extent of Sakina's fear and desperation to escape her actions. What was also telling was the phone call to 911 that followed. Kayla's body was discovered by a friend, and when the authorities arrived, they were faced with a gruesome crime scene. Kayla had been stabbed multiple times, her body showing signs of a violent struggle. But beyond the violence, what investigators found most disturbing was the lack of remorse from the suspect. Surveillance footage, DNA evidence, and witness statements all pointed to one conclusion: Sakina Thompson was responsible for the brutal murder of Kayla Hodgson. Sakina had fled back to New York, but her whereabouts were soon discovered by law enforcement. On August 10, 2022, just days after the murder, Sakina was arrested in New York and charged with first-degree murder. The arrest came after Sakina had fled the state, seemingly trying to evade capture. But the mounting evidence against her made it clear that she had no way of escaping the truth. During her arrest, Sakina showed little remorse for her actions. She claimed that she had acted in self-defense after a physical altercation with Kayla, but investigators didn't buy her story. The evidence clearly contradicted her version of events, as Kayla's body showed signs of multiple stab wounds, and there was no indication that the attack had been in self-defense. In fact, Sakina's actions, such as cleaning the scene, changing her clothes, and disposing of evidence, showed a calculated effort to cover up the crime. As Sakina extradited back to Broward County, Florida to stand trial, the community remained in shock. How could someone so consumed with jealousy and insecurity go so far as to take another person's life? Sakina's arrest sent ripples through the community, and for many, it was a wake-up call about the dangers of toxic relationships and unchecked jealousy. As the case of Kayla Hodgson's murder made its way to the courtroom, it became clear that the trial would be a deeply emotional and highly contentious one. Sakina Thompson, the woman accused of murdering Kayla, was set to face first-degree murder charges, and the trial was expected to draw significant attention given the shocking nature of the crime and the complicated relationship between the defendant and the victim.
New details tonight on an arrest in New York City. This after a young woman was killed last month inside her apartment in Tamarack. The Broward Sheriff's Office announced that the suspect, Sakina Thompson, is now in custody. CBS 4's Peter O'Dinch joins us live from the Tamarack Village complex with the very latest on this story. Peter.
Well, Naja, BSO says that the suspect was arrested in a neighborhood in Queens. That was 3 weeks after the homicide here. It's also where residents are relieved.
I feel terribly bad that that happened to her.
Shayla Hernandez was horrified by the murder of her neighbor, identified by friends and family members as 23-year-old Kayla Hodgson, seen here and in photos in a post from loved ones on a fundraising website. BSO says they responded to Hodgson's second-floor apartment on July 13th after a 911 call about an unresponsive woman. They say they discovered that Hodgson at the scene here at the Tamarack Village complex. On July 25th, a warrant was issued for 28-year-old Sakina Thompson. She was arrested on Wednesday in New York City.
Making an arrest makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
BSO is not saying what led them to their suspect, but an arrest affidavit says Sakina Thompson was demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life by stabbing with a sharp object with a premeditated intent to cause.
I am very happy to hear about it because we were scared. We heard different stories from different people, and I happen to live on the floor above her, so I'm very happy. It makes me feel a lot better and more secure that they finally arrested somebody.
BSO has not said what the motive was. It's not clear when Thompson will be extradited. Right now, she is charged with first-degree murder. We are live in Tamarack. Peter O'Dinch, CBS 4 News.
Throughout the trial, Sakina's defense team attempted to argue that her actions had been driven by a moment of rage, claiming that she had been attacked by Kayla during their confrontation. According to Sakina, the situation spiraled out of control when Kayla struck her with a hookah and then allegedly slashed her stomach with a piece of glass. This, Sakina testified, caused her to lose control and stab Kayla in self-defense. However, prosecutors immediately questioned the credibility of this version of events. They argued that the evidence told a different story. One of the most damning pieces of evidence came from Sakina's own testimony, in which she admitted to changing into Kayla's clothes after killing her in an effort to cover up her involvement in the crime. Sakina also admitted to cleaning the crime scene and discarding evidence, including the blood-soaked jacket she had worn during the attack. She tried to paint a picture of a woman caught in a heated confrontation, but the jury and the prosecution saw through it. Kayla's brutal stabbing was not a crime of passion and self-defense. It was a cold and calculated act driven by jealousy and rage. Throughout the trial, the defense attempted to highlight Sakina's pregnancy as a mitigating factor, arguing that she had been overwhelmed by her emotions due to her situation. Sakina's defense lawyer read aloud a letter she wrote to the judge requesting to be released on bail, citing her pregnancy and the stress of being incarcerated. However, the prosecution was resolute. No matter the circumstances, Kayla's life had been taken in a violent and senseless act, and justice must prevail. Kayla's family and friends were in the courtroom throughout the trial, providing a silent but powerful presence as they fought for justice on behalf of their beloved Kayla. They listened intently to the arguments and waited anxiously as the jury deliberated. For them, this was not just a trial, but a painful and emotional journey to uncover the truth and ensure that Kayla's legacy would not be overshadowed by the violence of her death. After a lengthy trial, the jury came to a conclusion, and the verdict was delivered: guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions as Kayla's family and friends erupted into tears of relief and grief, while Sakina Thompson stood quietly, facing the consequences of her actions. For them, it was a moment of justice, but the pain of losing Kayla would never be erased. Although the conviction could not bring Kayla back, it was an important step in the healing process for her family, as it symbolized a recognition of the gravity of the crime and the severity of Sakina's actions. Sakina's sentencing also marked the end of a long and painful journey for the victim's family, who had been forced to endure the anguish of seeing their loved one's life cut short by senseless violence. Throughout the trial, Kayla's family had remained resolute in their pursuit of justice, despite the emotional toll it took on them. Kayla's tragic death left a lasting imprint on the community of Tamarack, Florida, where she had lived and worked. In the aftermath of the murder, there was a palpable sense of sadness and disbelief, as many struggled to comprehend how a young woman with so much potential could have had her life stolen in such a violent and preventable way. Kayla was described as a bright and caring individual, a woman who had a natural ability to uplift others and make those around her feel loved and valued. Friends and family continued to mourn her loss, not just because of the manner in which she died, but because of the circumstances surrounding her death. It was a stark reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and the dangerous consequences of unresolved conflicts in relationships. The case also sparked conversations about toxic relationships and the dangers of emotional abuse. Many individuals who followed the case expressed concerns about how jealousy, possessiveness, and insecurity could escalate to violence. In a world where online relationships and social media can amplify feelings of envy and resentment, Kayla's death highlighted the need for greater awareness about the emotional toll that such relationships can take and the importance of setting healthy boundaries in romantic partnerships. Kayla's death also underscored the devastating impact of domestic violence, even when it does not involve physical abuse from a partner. In this case, the violence was exclusively female on female, driven by the toxic dynamics of a love triangle. Many advocates for domestic violence survivors pointed to the case as an example of how jealousy and toxic attachment could spiral into violence, regardless of gender or the gender of the abuser. Kayla's family or friends were devastated by her death, and in the days following her murder, they came together to remember the young woman they had lost. A candlelight vigil was held in Hollywood, Florida, in her honor, and it was clear that her death had left a hole in the hearts of all who knew her. Kayla's loved ones described her as a bright light who had been taken too soon. They were grieving deeply, but they also expressed their unwavering commitment to seeking justice for the woman they loved. The murder shocked not only Kayla's family, but also the community of Tamarack. Her death was a grim reminder of how quickly things could go from jealousy and anger to tragedy. As friends and family gathered to mourn her loss, many expressed disbelief that a dispute over a man had escalated into a deadly encounter. Kayla had been just 23 years old, with her entire life ahead of her, but it was taken away by a toxic, volatile relationship. Her family held on to the belief that Kayla was watching over them, and they knew that she would want them to carry on, remembering her not for the way she died, but for the way she lived. Despite the heartache, they found comfort in the fact that Kayla's story had reached many, and it had sparked important conversations about relationships, jealousy, and the sometimes destructive nature of obsession. As the community came together to mourn her loss, they also pledged to continue fighting for justice, hoping that this tragic event would serve as a reminder of the importance of recognizing toxic behaviors in relationships and the dire consequences they can have. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.